first met JD back in 2017, about a year after his book, Hillbilly Elegy, became a New York Times bestseller. The book dropped in the middle of the 2016 election cycle. It was JD's personal story of growing up in Appalachia, dealing with grave family turmoil, poverty, societal decay, abuse, family addiction, and eventually his path to a better life. So,
to those who don't know what an elegy is a sad poem. It is for a soul who passed. An elegy is a sad poem for somebody who is deceased.
Societal decay, abuse, family addiction, and eventually his path to a better life. Though not societal decay, abuse, family addiction, and eventually his path to a better life.
He went
Though not explicitly a political book, it did help explain to coastal elites some of why Trump's message
he achieved
to the forgotten
prosperity, though. He achieved prosperity. He achieved prosperity. Prosperity. He prospered.
Explicitly a political book, it did help explain to coastal elites some of why Trump's message to the growing up in Appalachia, dealing with grave family turmoil, poverty, societal decay, abuse, family addiction, and eventually his path to a better life. Though not explicitly a political book, it did help explain to coastal elites some of why Trump's message to the forgotten men and women of middle America, to working class Americans, helped propel him to victory. JD was quickly deemed the voice of the Rust Belt. He spent his earliest years in the backwoods of Jackson, Kentucky, a hillbilly born to a proud hillbilly family, as he says. He writes that at various points his family threatened to cut off his ear, stabbed and shot random transgressors, you gotta read the book, and believed it was a sin punishable by grave bodily injury to insult someone's mother. When JD was still young, his family moved to Middletown, Ohio, a steel town north of Cincinnati, once booming, but eventually a casualty of globalization. JD watched as the jobs dried up and the basketball courts grew covered with weeds. My home, he writes in Hillbilly Elegy, was a hub of misery. Vance's mother and father divorced when he was just a toddler. His father up and left, abandoning him. His mother
They said when he was 6, his real dad left.
Divorced when he was just a toddler. His father up and left, abandoning him.
Wait, what? Wait. I thought it was 6. Hold up.
My home, he writes in Hillbilly Elegy, was a hub of misery.
So he was
Vance's mother and father divorced when he was just a toddler. His father up and left, abandoning him.
Yeah,
His mother Beverly was addicted to drugs. Her divorce when he was just a toddler. His father up and left, abandoning him. His mother Beverly was addicted to drugs, eventually heroin.
Sad.
She brought man after man into the home, some abusive to her in front of her young son. JD's childhood was full of trauma.
Abundance.
Which I asked him about.
With
being sworn at.
pain, hurt, trauma, abounds.
My home, he writes in Hillbilly Elegy, was a hub of misery. Vance's mother and father divorced when he was just a toddler. His father up and left, abandoning him. His mother Beverly was addicted to drugs, eventually heroin. She brought man after man into the home, some abusive to her in front of her young son. JD's childhood was full of trauma, like this, which I asked him about. Being sworn at, insulted, or humiliated by your parents.
Sure. Check.
Being pushed, grabbed, or having something thrown at you.
Check.
Detestable.
insulted or humiliated by your parents.
Indubitably.
Check.
Being pushed, grabbed, or
Indubitably
having something thrown at you.
detestable.
Check.
Having parents who were separated or divorced.
Check.
Born at, insulted, or humiliated by your parents.
Sure. Check.
Being pushed, grabbed, or having something thrown at you.
Check.
Having
Crazy.
parents who were separated or divorced.
Check.
Living with an alcoholic or a drug user.
Check.
Living with someone who is depressed or attempted suicide.
Check.
Watching a loved one be physically abused.
Check.
Wow.
You bat 1,000.
Yeah.
JD's mother, angry with him once after a fight, apologized to her son, and then after the apology, put him in a car, began driving erratically, and threatened to crash.
Speedily. She said, yeah, the JD's mother said she will crash and kill both of them. Crazy, bro.
And kill her terrified little boy. As she
Crazy.
began accelerating, JD jumped out of the car
Yep.
and ran for help. This is in the book. He told it to me as well.
It's crazy.
The police were called by a concerned neighbor. 12-year-old JD watched as the authorities took his mother away.
I remember I was just really sad and felt very lonely because I'm sitting in the back of this police cruiser. They've just arrested my mom. The relief of having survived another day was gone. And then I just wanted, somebody to come and take me away. And that was actually Lindsay. That was who. Sorry.
Why does that particular moment bring tears?
One, it's just such a crystal clear memory, and so it's hard almost not to feel the same way that I felt as a 12-year-old kid sitting in the back of that police cruiser. But I also think that that moment is kind of a microcosm of my entire life, is that there was this brief moment of terror and of feeling really lonely, and then there was Lindsay.
I would die for that kid. And I know he would too.
Lindsay, JD's sister. She's 5 years older than JD,
Salute
but at the time of that incident,
to
she was only 17.
JD's
It was
sis.
after this that JD went to live with his strict, no-nonsense, gun-toting grandma, and we do mean gun-toting. She had 19
Two-way.
loaded guns all over her house.
Wow.
Known to the family as Mama,
Yeah.
she was perhaps the most consequential in a series of strong women who saved JD from what could have been a dark path.
Yep. Salute to JD's grandmother and grandfather. They called him Papa.
Mama, when she
From
P-A-P-A-W.
what could have been a dark path.
Mama, when she died, I think the number is 19 handguns loaded that we found in her house in various places.
She also wasn't afraid to threaten using them.
Yeah, she said, look,
She owned a plenitude of guns.
we found in her house at various places.
She also wasn't afraid to threaten using them.
Yeah, she said, look, you're gonna come and stay with me, and if anybody has a problem with it, they can talk to my gun.
Mama told JD never to believe, quote, these fucking losers who think the deck is stacked against them. You can do anything. Was so iconic that Ron Howard made her character the star of his movie based on JD's book. She was played by Glenn Close.
Being gold mine of local intel.
Tell us about this corn festival.
Oh, he got your coin. Good.
So is it safe around here?
Again, I never win.
Well, if you don't like it, find some lame-ass loser to play with.
You gotta take care of business, you gotta go to school, you gotta get good grades to even have a chance. Mom was the best in her class. What's the point? I'm talking about a chance. You might not make it, but you sure as hell won't if you don't try. Why do you even care what I do? I ain't gonna live forever. Who's gonna take care of this family when I'm gone?
It wasn't easy. There were many more ups and downs in his childhood, but JD's
Yes.
grandparents, Mama and his granddad, who lovingly called JD things like shithead and taught him how to take and deliver a punch, drilled into this little boy
Yeah.
the importance of good grades as a pathway to a better life.
Yeah.
And eventually JD found his way. He enlisted in the Marines.
Yeah.
He served overseas in Iraq,
Yeah.
where Mama and Lindsay wrote to him every day. He came home a more disciplined young man, slimmed down, motivated. He applied to and was accepted at Ohio State University,
Yeah.
which he completed in
Yeah,
2 years.
After he graduated, after JD graduated from HS, he served in the military. Yes.
His way.
Thank
He enlisted
you,
in the
JD,
Marines. He served
for
overseas in Iraq, where
your
Mama and Lindsay wrote to him
service.
every day. He came home a more disciplined young man, slimmed down, motivated. He applied to and was accepted at Ohio State University,
OS.
which he completed in 2 years, less than half the time expected, earning summa cum laude honors and completing a double major. And then the seemingly impossible admission into Yale Law School,
Yeah.
one of the most competitive programs in the country.
Yeah.
That is where he met his future wife, Usha, and another hugely influential woman in his life, his professor and my friend, Amy Chua, author of
Did they meet before college? JD and Vivek, they knew each other in college. Yeah,
woman in his life, his professor and my
they
friend,
are
Amy Chua,
good
author
friends.
of Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. Chua convinced JD to write down some of his incredible childhood story. And in his life, his professor and my friend, Amy Chua, author of Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. Chua convinced JD to write down some of his incredible childhood stories in a memoir, and also to consider marrying Usha, whom she could see was very, very good for JD. When I
Nope.
interviewed him in 2017, he had just returned from a post-law school stint in San Francisco, working for investor Peter
Cali.
Thiel, and was determined to do something locally now, back in his home
Mm,
area, to help his home community.
yeah.
I spent a fair amount of time with JD and Usha, just as she was about to have her first of 3 babies, and simultaneously head off to clerk for Chief Justice John Roberts. She's an overachiever too. And I asked about whether politics might be in their future. What do you think? Should he run for office?
I think someday if the time is right and if he really feels that that's the best way that he can contribute to his home, then I think that would be a great idea.
Why do you get uncomfortable when that idea comes up?
I think that, when people ask me if I want to run for office, part of me wonders, like, do they think I just give off a used car salesman vibe?
Don't you think it's more born of hope that you could be a real change agent?
Yeah, no, I think that's the optimistic take on it, and I'm very flattered when people ask me, and you never say never, but it's just not something that I think about doing right now.
Never say never is right.
Mhm.
Less than 8 years later, he's in line to become potentially the next vice president of the United States and the Republican Party's future.
Yeah.
The man who could carry on Trump's political legacy.
Yeah.
His story is the definition of the American dream. It's inspirational.
Yes.
As with most stories,
Agreed.
like JD's, there are some realities to this path out of trauma that are not all rainbows and
Pain,
unicorns.
hurt.
And that led to what I think is the most poignant part of our time together. A discussion about how it's all affected him and his enduring bond with one of the women key to his survival of these traumas, his sister Lindsay. Do you think he's dealt with this stuff?
I think that he thinks that he has. I think that this book, writing it, was a very good step.
When I finished the book, I felt a little worried about you.
Why?
I wondered if you had really dealt with everything.
It's interesting.
And when I met with Lindsay, she wondered too. What do you think?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked this. I think that the honest answer is that I probably haven't dealt with everything, but that's part of growing up and living your life, is you're constantly dealing with this stuff and you're constantly
Yeah.
working through it.
Yeah.
The book is not an effort to sort of finally work through all of these things that happened when I was a kid. It's the beginning of an effort that will probably take me for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that.
Wow. Yesterday, this was J.D. Vance on stage in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as he accepted the
In
nomination for
2024.
Vice President of the United
in
States on the
Milwaukee.
GOP ticket.
Milwaukee.
Delegates and alternates, ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce that Senator J.D. Vance
He
has
has
the overwhelming
a
support
whole-
of this convention
a-
to be
a
the next
big
Vice
beard
President of the United
that
States.
Trump approves of. Well, not a big
Wow.
beard.
I'm not gonna
A
lie,
beard
that brought a tear to my eye.
that BJT approves of.
United States.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie, that brought a tear to my eye. I have a very soft spot in my heart for this guy. 39 years old,
Almost
and the embodiment of the
Almost
American
40.
dream.
Yeah.
Do you know back taxes? Pandemic.
No cap. I did not predict that J.D. Vance was going to be picked, chosen. I thought Doug was going to be chosen. Doug Burgum. He's a wealthy businessman. He is a gov. They say he's one of the wealthiest govs that exists. Bro. Doug, he has business acumen. He has business knowledge, business savvy. He owns a business. He was able to build, grow his technology business from a small startup company to a company that has 2K employees. His company has at least 2K employees. At least 2K employees. Yes. Yeah, he was able to grow his company to a large size. He opposes illegal immigration. He opposes the entering of unvetted immigrants. He opposes the entering of unvetted immigrants. He does. He also opposes the EV mandate that JB supports. He supports tax cuts. He DB Doug Burgum, he is a political figure who is not provocative. Doug Burgum is a political figure that is not provocative, not he does not speak. Doug does not speak provocatively or speak or say off color things. He's not as provocative as DJT is. He would not. Doug, he's more he's more perspicacious, more sagacious when he speaks, more prudent when he speaks. He doesn't speak provocatively or off color. He doesn't. He restrains. He makes sure he doesn't cause, or he doesn't say things in a way that can be interpreted as crazy or offensive, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. But DJT, he's very his policies are very respectable. He says a lot of respectable things. He's not bigoted, but he speaks less provocatively than Doug.